You could be a bit obsessive.
Cut!
And a little too in touch with your feelings.
Let's work it out!
You know, she told me I was obsessive and too in touch with my feelings.
Those are not the words I would use.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's start the show.
Welcome to a multi-decade adventure known as Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and I cannot think of anything more crazy than the idea of Zoe Kravitz. Is she filling in for the role of Jack Black in this reimagining of High Fidelity, Bryce?
That's right. She is. It's like a gender-bent version of High Fidelity. It's a new Hulu series coming on February 14th. But yeah, she tries to get over her true love by revisiting her past loves while managing a record store.
All right, let's take our bets right now. The original High Fidelity featured a very prominent moment where Jack Black is bent over and they make a hilarious moment of his butt crack. How much butt crack heat do we think we get from Zoe Kravitz?
It's on Hulu. It's a streaming.
We should probably ask our guest, Nicole Lee, this hard-hitting question because, of course, she's a professional journalist at Engadget. Nicole, how do you answer Brian's question?
I don't even know where to start. I'm gonna say less butt crack.
Less.
Probably more. Yeah, I'm gonna say less. I'm gonna say less.
So pro sexism. Got it. No.
Wait a minute. It was a gotcha question. That's not fair, Brian.
Yeah, that's right. Next up, Picard is going to join us on the show. All right. What do we got, Tom?
All right. Let's get into our primary target. The return of soap operas is here, but they are neither soap nor opera. Let me explain. Procter & Gamble, which owns all the products you buy at the grocery store, essentially, has agreed to a partnership with Stone Village Television to create long-form scripted television shows for sale to streaming services. Stone Village is a legit producer. They've produced the show Las Vegas, which airs on NBC, Empire Falls, which was on HBO. The first P&G project is going to be based on the self-help book I Am Keats, about getting away from society-imposed roles. Procter & Gamble says the series may sometimes feature its products, but not always. That's not the point. Procter & Gamble has history with this. They produced actual soap operas like Guiding Light and As the World Turns, and ran the People's Choice Awards from 1982 until 2017, just a couple of years ago. So this isn't the first time Procter & Gamble has been involved in television, but it's interesting to me, Brian, to think of, the people who make Mr. Clean products creating television shows that they're like, we just want them to be quality. That's the biggest thing. And then we'll figure out how that benefits our brand afterwards.
Yeah, I think there is a temptation to sort of reduce entire decades of soap operas, as they've come to be known, to being low quality products, when really they're not low quality products, but I will say they are low fidelity products. Similar to, I didn't really get professional wrestling until somebody explained that it is just soap operas, but with a physical acrobatic payoff instead of an emotional payoff. So likewise, there are things that tug at us that sometimes they're visually created. For example, your Avengers Endgames and so on, but other times they're simply good storytelling that tug at us. And if you can, similar to the success on paper, I don't understand the success of anybody on Twitch ever. But if you keep that low fidelity, turn on a webcam, just keep going, maybe you flub a line, that's fine. You keep on running with it. Then all of a sudden the success of soap operas makes sense. And I don't know, like so many aspects of the new media revolution remind me of the early days of sponsored programming, that this feels like the next iteration of, like, let's do a bunch of low fidelity, long-term storytelling. I don't know.
I hasten, before we get to Nicole's thoughts on this, I hasten to add, these are not necessarily low fidelity. They are hiring people who made shows for HBO and NBC. And yes, the first one is self-help, so that may feel like maybe it's low fidelity, but let's look, maybe it's a Marie Kondo level production like Netflix has. And I could see these being higher quality than we expect from soap operas.
It's
Nicole,
interesting because when I first heard about this, I thought it would be like a version of their Super Bowl ad where they merged all the P&G products in like
the extended P&G universe.
Yeah, like they'll have the Head and Shoulders guy on one side and a Mr. Clean on the other side, and then all of a sudden there'll be a Tide guy on the background. I mean, I don't know. But the idea of sponsored content is not new, right? I mean, that in of itself is not exactly like a groundbreaking thing. I think the thing that's perhaps interesting to us is that it's so in your face about it, or so it's so like, oh no, we're sponsoring this. No, this is our funded thing. But I mean, we'll see if it's good or not. I mean, in the end of the day, like if it's a good product and if the content stands on its own without the sponsorship, then maybe it's okay. Or like at the end of the day, like, I think consumers know when they're being pandered to. I think consumers know when they're being, when there's like content, like sponsored stuff everywhere. So we'll see if that's like will be content, but. I don't know. With them saying like, look, we don't even want our products to be featured in these necessarily. Like, I think Procter & Gamble is looking at this as there seems to be an insatiable amount of appetite for content. It is difficult to get your message out in ways that can be heard, especially on a place like Netflix that doesn't take ads. But what if we could create a high quality product that on the face of it is about, increasing diversity. And then Netflix says, that sounds great. We'd love to have it. And it's just associated with our name. And that's our way of getting people to think about Procter & Gamble as a new kind of thing. It could help lift the boat of our brands, but it could also just be a new way for a company that has content creation in its history to create a new revenue stream.
This also solves an ongoing problem that I've alluded to, which is like I derived no joy from the anxiety of loading up Netflix and then having to decide what to watch next. If there's a low fidelity story that's pretty good, I guess, that I'm kind of into, that is of the moment, I mean, odds are I'm just gonna say like, yeah, just give me more of whatever. I don't know. I'm in the middle of building a chair.
What if it's not low fidelity though? I know I'm hung up on that, but like, what they're using Stone Village, right? They didn't go to somebody that makes straight to DVD stuff. Like, what if this is high quality HBO level stuff?
To be honest, I weirdly, I think I'd be disappointed because I think that's a void. Like right now we're filling that void with Twitch and YouTube videos and stuff. I suspect.
Wait, no, we're filling that void with HBO and Netflix. Like I'm talking about like fictional programming. I know the first one they're doing is nonfiction and maybe that's what's throwing us off here, but I'm like, what if they do Succession type programming?
I mean, that would be amazing. Also, I would be surprised. I guess that's all I could say about that.
Nicole, am I nuts?
I will say that even though I understand the appetite for high level programming like HBO and all of those things, I will say that I do agree that if P&G's goal is to reach the widest number of consumers possible, it may be to their interest to do a low fidelity programming that like a low level of commitment to the show. But I mean that's just my thought on that. But.
And keep in mind, I am 100% guilty. I will be the first to admit of projecting onto this. Like I until reading this story, it hadn't occurred to me what niches were underserved in the new media community. And I just suspect that there's a reason the first generation of soap operas showed up. And I suspect that there's something that we want out of that.
I think it's smart right now when everybody's saying, who's going to be the next Netflix? Is it Disney Plus? Is it HBO Max? Is it Quibi? For someone to say, people are going to need programming for all of this stuff. And maybe we should be involved in that end of the business. And as an advertiser, being able to say, you know what, let's take some of our talent at content creation. Then, we partner with ad agencies to make little stories all the time, and we have historically been involved in bigger stories. What if we do that? I'm very fascinated with what's coming out of here. You're probably right, Brian. I'm probably overestimating what they'll do, but the fact that they went with a more respected television production agent, company for this. The company that's doing Station 11 for HBO Max, which is a really high concept post-apocalyptic award-winning science fiction novel, makes me think that at least P&G is aiming for this stuff to be better.
And keep in mind, to be honest, like our track record is such that I tend to be the pie in the sky guy and you tend to be the boots on the ground guy. I think very realistically, you are correct, and it won't be anything like what I'm projecting. But the moment I read this, I thought, what underserved markets am I seeing in new media? And low fidelity, high quality storytelling, I'm not seeing a lot of. So that's part of the reason that I'm projecting all of that onto this.
You're saying that would be a good place for them to do it. I guess all I'm saying is that may not be what they're doing, even if that would be a good idea.
Correct.
And honestly, I think you're right. That is an area where they could move into, and maybe they will move into both. Maybe they'll do multiples. But this idea that large companies might take a hand in content creation in a way that doesn't turn people off is one of the unexpected side effects of unbundling, decentralization of who gets to make programming that I hadn't expected to see. So it's interesting to see where that might go.
Yeah.
We are also a side effect of unbundling and the decentralization of resources, because all we need are you folks to support us. It's kind of like believing in fairies, Brian.
Sure. Only unlike fairies, we can actually cash your checks. So why don't you head on over to fairies.com. I'm sorry. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Head on over. Give us $1 an episode.
Support us on Patreon, the more real we become.
That's
versus
right.
having to believe. There's a tangible benefit to it.
All we're saying is, would you please give us the clap? Head on over to the tune of $1 per episode at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Keep us loud, live, and independent.
All right, let's talk about how to watch. Our main story today was, of course, about a new side effect, a thing that might be totally different. Our How to Watch segment is about how old things that we thought we had left behind are cropping up in the new world. Last week, 2 days before the Super Bowl, Roku announced the 7 apps from Fox, which was broadcasting the Super Bowl, would stop working on Roku. Roku said its distribution agreement with Fox expired, and therefore it was forced to remove the apps. Fox called the decision a poorly timed negotiating ploy. But late Friday, the two companies reached an agreement, and Roku owners were able to stream the Super Bowl through the Fox apps after all. Now, crisis avoided in this particular instance, but this is disturbing because it brings back the idea that CBS would be blacked out on your local DirecTV and they'd start sniping in public about who's to blame. We thought we may have left that behind, but apparently not.
That's really interesting because what you describe as disturbing, I perversely think of as a little bit comforting because it's so familiar. Like we've seen this dance. And if anything, to me, this reads as a indication that this is a mature problem that is that is going to the same solutions that have worked in previous iterations of the problem.
I guess I find it neither comforting or dismaying. I just find this is par for the course for streaming company. I mean, it is new in the sense it's new for the streaming world or whatever, but this is going to happen. This will continue to happen, I think.
Well, I guess why I find it disturbing is that Roku is taking its advantage and turning it around. The Roku advantage has always been it's an open platform. Anybody can use it. When YouTube was having a spat with Fire TV, no worries, you were fine on Roku. Vudu was available on Roku when it wasn't on Apple TV. PlayStation View on Roku. Everything has always come to Roku because Roku had a nice wide open platform, whereas Apple always felt like it had too many rules for a lot of companies. This says, oh, but be careful. If you don't do a deal with Roku and you're a very big company, you might get your apps pulled. You might run into trouble. And that starts to make Apple's model of just saying, we don't care who you are, we take 30% of any app charges, look reasonable.
So in the online over-the-top network universe, I think Roku is probably the most established, probably the closest to the dominant position of previously what we'd always just labeled cable companies as. So with that being the case, isn't this a little bit like seeing a mature moth emerge from a chrysalis? Like this is the grown-up kind of behavior we expect from a dominant player in this space?
Yeah, I mean, sure. You could look at it that way. But also
keep in mind, I'm not saying that's great. I'm just saying
what we thought was better. One of the things we thought was better about this platform is like, well, we won't have that dominance of the cable industry anymore. So we won't have these hard negotiations necessary, because CBS's only ploy when they wanted to get a better deal was to pull their channel because there were no competitors. The idea here is like, well, there should be enough competitors that this isn't an issue, but seems to have cropped up anyway.
I guess maybe I'm being Pollyanna about this, but in my mind, this is the moment that we stop to perceive Roku as the little box that could, punching up against the cable networks, and instead truly recognize that everybody's broken off to their own subsection of media consumption universe. And in this case, Roku probably is the closest parallel to a cable network. So to see them acting like a cable network in some way,
I'm a cable provider.
Like sorry. Yeah. Cable provider. Yeah. But you see what I'm getting at, right?
I mean, sure. But again, I think we all thought that the open pressures of a marketplace would keep us as consumers from getting caught in the negotiation battle. And it turned out that Roku was striking side deals we didn't know about, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like if they can get Fox to cut them in on revenue and ad sharing, I mean, that's one of the reasons Roku is being so successful. But we don't want it to make our apps stop working because that's kind of, that feels like it's the system not working very well. That feels like a breakdown.
Yeah. Does this have you bummed or optimistic, Nicole?
I am a little disappointed in the sense of like, there was this sense that Roku was the reliable one out of all the different devices that you could use streaming for. And it does make me think, oh, I guess it's not that secure after all. So that's that little bit of a thought. But I guess for me, streaming devices are so inexpensive these days. Like literally, they're really cheap, right? So I know for me, I could just swap it out if I wanted to.
I mean, actually, I hadn't even thought about that. Like a real solution to this would have been to just cast from your phone on the Fox app to the TV. I don't know if that was blocked or didn't work for some reason, but yeah, there are a lot of alternatives.
But there is hope, to coin a phrase, a tyranny of convenience that happens where it's like, yes, there are multiple other ways to get all of this stuff, but you happen to be in the Roku ecosystem, so they're going to flex that muscle in order to, much like the cable providers did.
Well, and what Roku was doing was saying, hey, Roku users, you can use Hulu Live or YouTube TV or the NFL's own app to watch the game without having to use your Fox login and your Fox app, which was all true. So they were playing hardball by saying, we have other things in our own ecosystem that you could use.
Right. Yeah, I guess my counterintuitive take, and it's like I'm not gonna die on the hill of defending all of this stuff, but I will say that in general, seeing the over-the-top networks and the over-the-top providers start to act like the old guard, kind of like I don't know how else they would act. To me, if there's any upside to this, it's an indication that truly the revolution has been won because the new guys are acting like the old guys.
Well, yeah, and we don't know what was like behind the scenes. It may have been Roku saying like, "Do you really want to make this a thing?" And then realizing like, well, this because it's Fox. This is an old company, so the only language they will understand is their old language. So we have to act like Comcast now
Right.
in order to get them to come to a deal. And they did come to a deal Friday night. This went public Friday morning or late Thursday, and was a done deal by Friday night. And that is very different than the weeks and weeks of outages that have happened between broadcast networks and cable in the past. Side note, before we move off of this, because I see some confusion in the chat room here, this is Fox, the company, not Disney. Fox, the company, is what's left of Fox that Disney didn't buy. That's the Fox broadcast channel that you see over the air. That's Fox News, Fox Business News, FS1, and FS2. So if you're like, wait a minute, I thought Disney owned Fox. This is Disney fighting with Roku? No, it's not. This is the Fox Media Corporation that is the pieces of Fox that Disney didn't buy, if that helps make more sense for people.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Disney and what to watch.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Hundreds of fans.
Disney released a trailer with scenes from the first 3 Marvel-based shows that'll be coming to Disney Plus. You see some action scenes from The Falcon and Winter Soldier, some scenes from WandaVision showing Wanda Maximoff creating a world where Vision is still alive. Supposedly, it's going to see Wanda finally get the name Scarlet Witch. And Loki, a show about the alternate version of the trickster god imprisoned by the Time Variance Authority. You can see the TVA label on his jumpsuit at one point. Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision both coming in late this year, 2020, and Loki expected to air early 2021.
Still super optimistic about all this stuff. I'm not entirely sure what these trailers did for me as somebody who has already bought in on things, but I assume that they raised awareness and got people thinking like, oh wait, I enjoyed Endgame.
I didn't realize that the WandaVision was going to be a like parody of late night or primetime television shows.
I very much like that. The closer they can make that series to like a Twilight Zone episode, the happier I'll be.
Among the many ads premiering on YouTube and then being shown in the Super Bowl was a trailer for Fast and Furious 9. Director Justin Lin coming back to the franchise. He's the guy who did Tokyo Drift and 3 other Fast films back in the day. This is a sequel to The Fate of the Furious and shows Sun Kang playing the character Han Lu, who supposedly died in the movie Tokyo Drift and had a funeral in Furious 7. So that'll be fun. Fast and Furious 9 hits theaters May 22nd of this year, and a 10th and final film is planned for release next year on April 2nd.
I am 100% unqualified to talk about this trailer and this franchise because I've seen none of them. However, I will say that of all the trailers I've seen, this is one of the least impressive. like at the very least, I could always rely on Fast and the Furious trailers to deliver to me something insane that I'm like, wow, that's a great action set piece. I didn't so much see it this time.
Nicole, are you a Fast universe fan?
I do know that this series has hardcore ardent fans that will nitpick everything, but I do not have any interest in or any experience really in watching any of the movies.
Honestly, I saw some headlines that this trailer tells you everything you need to know about this movie, and therefore you don't need to see the movie. It certainly is that kind of trailer that gives you all the plot points. Also, Fast and Furious, not a movie you're going to see for plot points, usually.
Exactly.
So I think that's fine. You're going to see car chases and big trucks flipping over and stuff like that. So you want to see that on the big screen. Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. This, for Fast and Furious fans, is probably candy. And for everyone else, it's like, oh, okay, another Fast and Furious movie. I'm not seeing anything particularly unusual or new this time around. Yeah,
in a weird way, like to me, the sum total of the Fast and Furious experience will be whatever I see in the trailers, and previous trailers have really over-delivered. I mean, there's some like, I don't know how they did that. How much money did that cost or whatever? Didn't so much get that from this one.
Also, when they say 10th and final film, I'm fairly certain it will not be the final film. Whether that's like they spin out and do more Hobbs
what they
and Shaw
meant
type
is
stuff,
that film is damn fine. It's final.
We also got new trailers for Top Gun Maverick, No Time to Die, the James Bond movie, Black Widow. Any of these other trailers that were all dumped on us during the Super Bowl turn anybody's heads?
Where are we at on James Bond? Like, do we still like? I haven't seen the last couple of movies, and it's really hard to gussy up the strength to do so. Are you guys still digging that whole franchise?
I mean, I'll speak for myself is that in the sense of like the only real James Bond I watched were like the really old ones when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I haven't really caught on to like any of the more modern ones, which I hear from people that were actually pretty good. So I'm not saying they're bad or anything. It's just I haven't watched any of them. I will say that out of the 3 trailers, the James Bond was the most interesting.
I agree.
Even though I haven't watched it, the trailer was super interesting.
Yeah. I watch every James Bond movie that comes out. I'm not a super fan. I don't know everything about the series, but I always go and I always enjoy them. And I've loved Daniel Craig's take on the character. I think it's an incredibly good modern take, and I'm sorry to see him go. This will be his last one. I think it's interesting that they're positioning this movie as everything's gonna change. All those things you hated about James Bond in the past, they're all gonna be gone in this movie. And I'm curious if we're going to get a head nod towards who the next James Bond might be and what that might entail.
Spoiler alert. New James Bond is going to be named Jimmy B. He's going to be 17 years old, and he's going to be taking on a rival clan in World of Warcraft. I'm sorry.
Radical.
Jimmy B.
Jimmy B.
000007. Because that's the character count for my log.
His name is an IP address 000.000.007.
Okay, I'm gonna say over under on that is not, but that's not how over unders work. So, yeah, I don't know. I Top Gun Maverick, I could see the appeal again. It's kind of like Fast and Furious, right? If you're like a big fan of Top Gun, this has everything you need in it.
That's actually a good topic to bring up. Like both James Bond and Top Gun, I don't know how to appreciate either of those universes absent the Cold War. And again, this is all biased because we grew up in the Cold War and there was this constant, pervasive, terrifying threat, this existential crisis over us at all times. I gotta think both of those franchises don't really work in the modern age.
I think James Bond still does, because spy stories are fun. It doesn't have to be the Cold War for it to be a compelling spy story. Top Gun Maverick, that just seems like a trip down memory lane. Like, if you like fast planes, kind of why I'm comparing it to Fast and Furious, I guess. If you like fast planes, this will have fast planes, and you'll get to see what happened to Maverick later.
Yeah, so but even caring about fast planes, I think when I was a kid was fueled by our desire to believe that our planes were faster than the bad guys' planes. Or whatever.
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of people who are still into planes these days. I don't think that's gone away just because of the dying of the Cold War. But
yeah.
But anyway, we're not talking about Black Widow, mostly in my perspective, because Black Widow didn't have a whole lot of new content in it. So I mean, it still looks like it. My impressions of it haven't changed since the last trailer that I saw.
This looks like a trailer that has been out for a few months, doesn't it? Doesn't look like much new footage at all.
I'm sure there's a difference in there I missed, but it didn't look any different to me. Creator and executive producer of The Crown, Peter Morgan, confirmed that the show will end after season 5. Claire Foy played Queen Elizabeth in the first 2 seasons, which brought the story into the 1960s. Olivia Colman had played the Queen in season 3 and is playing the Queen in season 4, which is currently in production. That will bring the story into the Princess Diana era. Imelda Staunton is now confirmed to be taking over the role of the older Queen in season 5, and they say they will bring the story into 2000. Staunton said he originally imagined the show would run 6 seasons, but said it has become clear to me that this is the perfect time and place to stop. I'm grateful to Netflix and Sony for supporting me in this decision.
See, that's what they say, and then all of a sudden Procter & Gamble shows up and says, what if there was a mecha queen? And all of a sudden she's got like robot arms and stuff, and she's like, we must defeat the Martians.
And she's Queen Clean.
No longer the queen, now the Queen of Clean.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling that part of the problem is the drama around Meghan and Harry, which if you don't know what the drama is, just do a search. You'll find out. May have made it difficult to figure out where to stop the story because they don't know all the details of that story. So you can't really tell all of the things the way that they tell this story. And so they probably decided, you know what? let's just stop a good 20 years before now, and that'll keep us safe.
That's a really interesting question, because there's sort of a chicken and egg thing where it's like, did Meghan and Harry leave because kind of people are over the royal family story? And in leaving, did they accelerate people being over the royal family story?
No. I mean, apparently they left because people are way too into the royal family story, and they're tired of it, and they're tired of the attention.
So wild.
Do either Nicole? Do you watch The Crown?
No, but I mean, I know about it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. So.
A movie production of Hamilton featuring the original Broadway cast will arrive in theaters October 15th, 2021. It will be a live capture of a stage performance, not a reshoot. This is a performance that took place at the Richard Rodgers Theater in Manhattan with the original cast about 2 weeks before it finished up with the original run. Disney paid for the rights and will bring the movie to stream on Disney Plus after it's done running in theaters.
I'm surprised this took so long to happen. It makes me wonder if there's some resistance to, how do I put this? I guess, long story short, is I suspect live anything is dying, and the best version of a live thing is going to be the recorded version of the live thing that gets distributed and is the canonical version of the live thing. And I say that partly as somebody who spent 20 years touring colleges with a 75-minute stage show, and yet more people watch me perform those routines on Scam School than the sum total of my entire career. So I don't see how this doesn't become the new standard. Is that weird?
Well, so what you're saying is, rather than reshoot it as a movie, it's more appealing to people to say, like, you didn't get a chance to see it on stage.
Exactly.
Now you can.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I don't know if that would work for everything. But for something that was as much of a cultural moment as Hamilton, I think you might be right. People are like, you know what? I didn't get a chance to see it. Or even I saw it, but it wasn't the original cast. I want to see what that looked like with Lin-Manuel
Yeah, because off-Broadway
Miranda.
productions are touring now. It's, it's still touring the country, but I guess if you want the original cast.
But and especially because
in LA, but I'm still curious about seeing it with this cast because I didn't see the original.
Yeah, like weirdly, you'll see that production, but this will, in your mind, eventually become the canonical performance of it, because just by virtue of having rewatched this one more times than you saw the original.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm actually very kind of excited by this. As you mentioned, not everyone has seen it, but I know people who are big fans of Hamilton have never seen the actual thing. And I think something like this would be great.
My daughter is one of those. Like she can sing most of the songs from it, and I've listened to the soundtrack 2 or 3 times. Had a fine time listening to it. But for me, whatever this production is, will be the canonical performance. And
it's an opposite of what Lin-Manuel did with his In the Heights, which wasn't as big of a hit as Hamilton, don't get me wrong, but In the Heights was a pretty good hit on Broadway, and he turned it into a movie. They went and shot in neighborhoods. They didn't do a stage capture of it, so it's interesting to see. All right, a few more notes. CBS is putting up the first episode of Star Trek Picard on YouTube for a limited time for anyone to watch for free. Netflix announced it will extend its deal with Adam Sandler to make 4 more movies. Netflix says Murder Mystery, which also starred Jennifer Aniston alongside Adam Sandler, was its most popular title in the U.S. in 2019. And Apple TV Plus is making the Foundation books by Isaac Asimov into a TV series. It will shoot in Limerick, Ireland, starting later this year, and be Ireland's largest ever production. Bigger than Game of Thrones.
How do you feel about the Foundation series, Tom? I know that that's a fairly precious property to you.
Well, I assume Harry Seldon foresaw that Apple TV Plus would make this, so it's going to be fine.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It has to be the biggest ever to pull it off, but also it just has to be adapted right. This is a hard one to adapt for TV.
Yeah. In the meantime, Star Trek Picard being on YouTube, smart move, because I think the first episode's very, very strong. If I were them, I would limit it to only the first episode. We'll talk about the rest in Spoilerin time. But but outside of that, should we move on to the stuff we're watching?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with you, Nicole. What have you had your eyes on?
So I've watched a bunch of stuff, but let's mention the last thing I watched recently, which was it's a reality show on Netflix. It's called Next in Fashion, and it's basically Netflix's take on Project Runway. Project Runway is this long-running fashion design reality competition that was on Bravo and Lifetime, still on Bravo actually, and it's so interesting for me because I love watching shows with a lot of creativity in it. So Next in Fashion is hosted by 10 friends from Kurai and Alexa Chung, which is like a model designer, I believe. And the conceit and the difference between this show and Project Runway is that the budget is essentially unlimited. So all of these designers, they have this treasure trove of like luxe fabrics and luxe materials. I mean, in Project Runway, they got like a budget of like $300. This is like literally anything they want, they will, like, Netflix will give them. And so it's a beautiful show. The designs are amazing. The creativity is off the charts. And I mean, there are some things I don't know if I like necessarily, in the sense of like in the very beginning, they were paired up in pairs, and I think some of them didn't know each other before the show, and I was like, you could clearly tell they didn't know each other because they didn't really get along, and I don't know if I like that idea of it. But overall, it was really interesting. I want to say it's like Project Runway with less drama, way shorter, like snappier production, like super fast and efficient, but still full of creativity. And it's really interesting to see Netflix make all of these really kind of interesting reality shows. I mean, they've done it before, obviously, but this is like, you can tell it was money. You can tell this cost a lot of money to make.
Like, what's the craziest material that you've seen them spend money on?
There was just like, they made a whole dress out of leather, and everything. You could tell everything was super expensive. There was like gold chains and stuff like that. I mean, it's literally, if you give creative people an unlimited budget, this is kind of what you can. That's kind of what you will see. It's like just creativity run wild.
Next in Fashion, got it.
It's really interesting. I mean, if you love fashion, I think it's an interesting show.
Tom,
it is interesting to watch Netflix do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you happen to heed Bryce's recommendation for The Outsider? Did you ever watch that?
Who?
You.
No.
The Outsider? Turns
no,
out
you
it's
asked
good.
Me this before the show, and I told you no then, too.
Well, okay, but look, it's called suspension of disbelief, Tom. Come on. Tom, The Outsider is way, way good.
It's such a good show.
Bryce, maybe give a major spoiler by saying that
I did not know it was
Jason
a major spoiler.
Bateman was in the first 2 episodes.
I did not know it was
sort of, as you're watching Jason Bateman be accused of a crime, you think, first 2 episodes, huh? But
I'm glad we repeated it. I am glad that we've repeated it on this program.
It's fine. It's way good. It's way good. It's really hard to adapt Stephen King's work. This is a good adaptation of Stephen King's work. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. The last episode notwithstanding.
All right, fine. I'll watch The Outsider. God damn it. I gotta put it in
It's
my
great.
little
Jason Bateman's in the first 2 episodes.
He might be in more. I don't know.
Well, I assume that he is a pivotal character from the trailers that I have constantly been told to watch. That I should watch.
Pivotal character who's in the first 2 episodes.
Okay, all right. Please go on.
What I've been catching up on is The Magicians. I just burned through season 4, which I had entirely missed, and watched the first 3 episodes of season 5, and it's a testament to me that I don't have enough time in my schedule to watch all the things that I want to watch, because I really, really enjoyed catching up on this, and I was sorry that I took so long to do it.
So continues to be good.
Yeah, The Magicians is, I mean, it's still on Sci-Fi. I always, in my mind, I kind of paired up with The Expanse, because it was like, oh, The Expanse is the sci-fi show and The Magicians is the new fantasy show. But if you don't know what it's about, it's some kids at a graduate school for magic. So graduate school means they're old enough to do adult things that you wouldn't have, say, a Harry Potter type story.
Yeah, Harry Potter, only they're getting busy.
Yeah, they're easily getting busy, but
easily
they get to be in adult situations and believable situations.
That's a new meaning to the word Slytherin. Never mind.
It's a family program.
Yeah. So anyway, it's not just about that. It's also about friendship and real feelings and complicated relationships and all that sort of thing. And it's really good. The Magicians. You can get it up to season 4 on Netflix and season 5 on Hulu. What should we be on the lookout for, Bryce?
Hey, we got an email from Rick who writes, I check out most of the new originals from Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, and want to thank Tom for recommending the offbeat Netflix original Crash Landing on You from South Korea. Thank you, Tom. I want to return the favor and recommend Bonfire of Destiny on Netflix. It's based on a true tragic fire in 1897 Paris and is a fictional 8-episode drama on the aftermath of the fire and how it affected the lives of 3 families. It's the rare show where each episode improves. There's excellent scenery and set design, the storylines, and a ton of drama and suspense. Make sure to watch the subtitled French version because I heard the Netflix dub is pretty bad. Rick from outside Orlando, Florida. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, 8 hour-long episodes of The Bonfire of Destiny are streaming now on Netflix. You may want to check Just Watch if you are out of the country because I think this is one of those. I think this is like a co-production or a licensing thing, so I bet you don't see this in France. But The Bonfire of Destiny.
Excellent. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com.
Hey, Tom,
March
what do you got going on,
24th.
man? Wait, March 24th? What?
March 24th. Brian, I'm trying to tell you, March 24th is very important.
Go on.
That's when my next novel comes out. It's
Hold
called
on.
Trigger.
Yeah. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I didn't even know that you did novels. What kind of novels are these?
This is the second in a series about a time traveler named Pilot X and his very smart time ship Verity. After saving the universe in Pilot X, Trigger shows him dealing with the aftermath of what he had to do to save the universe and whether he can pull himself together in order to save the universe again. You can find more about it at inkshares.com. Just look for Trigger, Trigor.
As somebody who read and enjoyed Pilot X, I really enjoyed the very careful wording that you just gave describing Trigger. I can't wait to read it.
Meanwhile, folks, we are powered by Doghouse Systems. Without Doghouse Systems, you wouldn't see or hear us right now.
Heck yeah, dude. They came up out of nowhere, said, you know who we love? You. You know what we want to do? Provide you with multiple systems, allowing you to do the Modern Rogue, to do a Night Attack, to do Cordkillers. They provided the systems first in the hope that you guys, as fans and friends of the show, would recognize that sooner or later you're going to need a computer. And when you do, you should go to doghousesystems.com/v/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. You'll get something extra free, but most importantly, you'll be showing Doghouse Systems some love.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines!
Hulu CEO Randy Freer is stepping down as Hulu executives will be integrated into Disney's Direct-to-Consumer and International Business Division, or DTCI, which is headed by Kevin Mayer. Disney says this will let them distribute resources across all their streaming services, making it easier to bundle things together like Disney Plus and ESPN Plus with Hulu, while also giving more flexibility to take Hulu international. Hulu has a licensing deal for a service operated by Nippon TV that's called Hulu in Japan, but has no other international presence as
Tom,
of yet.
more often than not, I've got like a secret theory behind these kind of moves, but I guess I just don't know enough about this story as to know if there's a nefarious underpinning to all this.
Yeah, there might be, but I'm missing it too if there is. It seems like a pretty straight ahead integration of a company you now own into your existing infrastructure. Nicole, are you seeing anything we're missing?
It seems like a straightforward integration thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, MoviePass owner Helios and Matheson's Analytics has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, spoiler alert, protection. Unlike Chapter 11, which involves renegotiating with debts, Chapter 7 means the company dissolves and sells off all its assets to repay creditors. In its filing with the SEC, Helios and Matheson estimates that the assets are worth between $1 and $10 million.
Ouch.
It owes $60.9 million. 4 board members, the interim CEO and interim CFO have all resigned. Helios and Matheson were being investigated by the SEC, the FTC, and attorneys general for New York and California. The company also is the target for several pending shareholder lawsuits. Tom, I got to tell you, like, in terms of their assets, what do they got? Maybe an app and an email list? And that alone, I'm impressed that is worth $1 million.
They got Gotti.
And Movie Phone?
And Movie Phone. They bought Movie Phone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The higher you fly, Brian, the harder you crash. And
but the weird
flew
part
too close to the sun.
In an alternate universe, we were fairly open in mocking their high flying Icarus looking tactics. But in an alternate reality, it could have worked, right? Like they could have picked winners and losers by virtue of what people were willing to watch for quote unquote free.
If we think about this as a people, they won because now there are many MoviePass like services run by the movie theater.
Certainly,
that are
the
much more
idea has
sustainable.
won. Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if a different group of people could have made MoviePass work.
They definitely were running to the sun as fast as they could, though. It was like there was no vertical ascent fast enough to satisfy their appetites.
Hence the name Helios. In its latest earnings report, AT&T announced the company lost 4 million TV subscribers in 2019 across its AT&T and DirecTV branded services. Even more disconcerting for AT&T is that it lost 182,000 internet subscribers on the year. The bright point for your Charters and your Comcasts of the world is even as they see their cable TV subscriptions decline, they usually see their internet subscriptions rise. Not so for AT&T. However, AT&T COO John Stankey and CEO Randall Stevenson said HBO Max is critical to the company's success going forward.
Ooh, good luck. That's code for sell your AT&T stock. That's.
I mean, we're not financial advisors, so past performance is no guarantee of future performance. But wow,
that is really shocking. That tells me that they're really losing. It seems like when it comes to cable or internet service, that's really a boots on the ground. Maybe there's one or two providers in your area. Think about how many people they've got locked in just by virtue of being a virtual monopoly. And then whenever there is an option, I guess people are running to Spectrum or to other Comcast or what have you.
Well, the telcos haven't run out fiber. And the cable companies have figured out how to provide gigabit service down, maybe not up, but down over their existing wires. So usually the cable company is a better deal than AT&T in a lot of markets.
And not insignificant. My parents-in-law did not follow this advice, but when they were looking at internet providers, I full-on suggested just tether off your phone. I mean, nowadays they've got, ironically from AT&T, they have unlimited plans that on LTE you're able to get 20 to 60 megabits or whatever, and it's theoretically unlimited. But man, a lot of options coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. We should point out that AT&T Wireless is not the internet service. We're talking about wired internet here. AT&T Wireless is doing fine. So that is another bright point. But Nicole, it does remind me of when another company tried to buy Warner Media assets and then got eaten from the inside by them and had to spin them back out. That company being AOL.
Right. And it just, the whole thing seems, I mean, the fact that they said HBO Max is critical to their success just makes me giggle because we don't know how HBO Max is gonna do. I don't know how HBO Max is gonna do, and I just don't know if HBO Max has the clout that a lot of these other services have. And good luck, AT&T, because that doesn't seem like a good thing.
Well, in my opinion, if there's one company more hilarious than HBO Max, it's Quibi. Quibi ran an ad during the Super Bowl featuring bank robbers being told by their getaway driver that he'd be there in a Quibi. The bank robbers seemed confused by his response. And so the getaway driver clarified, oh, no. Quibi means less than 10 minutes. One of the robbers then realizes that he has Quibi and pulls it out to watch a video while he waits. The other two robbers run away. The Quibi app is now available for, quote, pre-order in the App Store. Tom, is this the single worst ad in Super Bowl history?
I'm interpreting it as a parable, Brian, which is one out of every 4 people will know what Quibi is. Another one will realize that they have it but didn't remember what it was, and the other 2 people will run away.
Yeah. How about that content that they featured from Quibi? You know, the thing that requires you to buy it before you even understand what it is.
You mean Punked? They showed Punked.
Yeah,
what?
Chance the Rapper's Punked.
Chance the Rapper, Punked. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty evident that it was Chance the Rapper's Punked from that, you know, giggly piece of clipped video.
It's gonna be a disaster. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great, Brian.
I will go on the record and saying no, it will not be great. Unlike Apple.
Business Insider reports that Parrot Analytics has estimated the 10 most popular streaming original premieres in the U.S. in Q4. Number 1, no surprise, The Witcher from Netflix. Number 2, probably only a surprise that it wasn't also number 1, The Mandalorian from Disney+. Number 3 might be a bit of surprise to some of you, Harley Quinn from DC Universe. But then here's the real surprise. 6 of the last 7 in the top 10 are Apple TV Plus shows, starting with Truth Be Told, followed by Servant, then C, For All Mankind, Dickinson, and The Morning Show. Netflix's Raising Dion came in at number 8, right between For All Mankind and Dickinson.
Tom, I don't know that I've ever said this before, but I don't know that I believe this. I suddenly, very rarely do we get a news story that all I want to do is dive into the like, how did you come to that conclusion? But this is one of those moments.
There certainly are things that could have thrown off the estimate, right? If they were sampling an audience that is more heavily Apple somehow, that certainly would. Let's say they only surveyed iOS, that's going to throw it off. Also, they sliced this pretty thin. They said streaming original premieres. So it's only among shows that had a brand new show, a new, you know, like, in other words, they didn't have a season 1. It's just a premiere of a show on streaming. It's not show on cable, anything like that.
So like
that
meanwhile,
starts to make me believe it a little more.
Whatever these numbers are, 10 times as many people are watching old reruns of Parks and Rec and The Office or what have you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe it. That's really weird.
I mean, part of it is that Apple TV just released a bunch of shows in this quarter, right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
And everybody was like, oh, this is new and I'm getting it for free. Let me sample it. So, yeah, I can believe it.
As a part of Alphabet's earnings report, Google announced that YouTube has more than 20 million paying subscribers for YouTube Premium and more than 2 million subscribers for YouTube TV. For comparison, Hulu Live last reported 2.7 million subscribers, and Sling had Sling TV 2.6 million subscribers.
Yeah, I would have expected YouTube TV to have more with all the money they're pouring into promoting it. So
their interface is so awful. Like I signed up for it. I'm one.
You didn't like it?
2.6 million, and then I dropped off. Well, because part of it is there is no expectation that in one household there will be more than one Hulu account. But there's a strong expectation that there will be more than one YouTube account. So as a result, when we upgraded, you know, think about it, just in my house as a content creator, we have my personal account, we have the Scam Stuff channel, the Scam Nation channel, the Mono Rogue channel, and you know, all the kids' individual Google channels. It was just sort of a disaster of, I just wanted a unified place. And so I ended up canceling it and going to Hulu Plus.
It's interesting because it's not profiles like
Nicole?
Hulu. You would have to add their Google account, like tying. They've got instructions here for family members, but it's not like a profile you would make within YouTube TV.
Well, and plus, like at any given day, I encounter multiple computers, and they're all logged into different things. And however, I am certain that there is a way to have made it work, but whatever it was less work than me just canceling it and going to Hulu. So I ended up doing that.
Nicole, I was curious what you use.
I used to be a big Hulu person, but then we switched to YouTube TV a while back, and we just never switched away because it was fine. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Kevin, who signs himself as former coworker of Eileen in the Tech TV and Edelman production days. Hi, Kevin. It says, Cordkillers crew, just thought I would share my frustrations with YouTube TV related to my viewing of the 2020 Super Bowl. I was at work watching the game on my phone through YouTube TV app in Antioch, California, which counts as part of the Bay Area. About 75% of the game was over by the time my shift was over, so I got in my car, started playing the YouTube TV feed through my Bluetooth connection in my car. In that moment, I thought, this is the dream we were sold in commercials for streaming services, because I was able to take my media with me without missing a minute of the show I was watching. It was so nice playing the game in my car via the device, just listening. Had been using to watch the game all along. Seamless mobility with my show. That is, until I reached Tracy, California, which is technically outside of the San Francisco Bay Area. All of a sudden, my feed was cut off. I'm sure there was a station in the Central Valley that should be authorized to play the Super Bowl, but YouTube TV makes you pick your region and does not see fit to let you wander to other regions. I felt like YouTube TV should have offered me a chance to switch to that feed. Instead, it just cut off the Super Bowl and offered no other options, and I did not get to see the end of the game. Since I live and work between two major regions, it really makes these services a pain at times. If some service finds a solution to this issue without cheating the system, I will subscribe to them in a heartbeat.
I'm a bit surprised that all of these companies don't make it. It seems like this is the time, as you want to seduce people into your ecosystem, that you sort of wink and a nod and let them see the things, even if they're technically outside of the area. But we've talked about for over 10 years how hardcore terrified of piracy and of keeping to the regional agreements all of these companies are.
Yeah, and it's the local TV stations particularly who are upset about this kind of thing. They're like, we don't want people in our area watching a show from outside our area. We want them watching the one where we get credit for the commercials. And so you have to have an agreement that honors that and says, okay, yeah, we'll make it worth your while for people to watch on YouTube TV rather than watching it on your over-the-air signal or on a cable TV signal. So that's what causes these complications. Not that they couldn't do this. I will say that Sling TV was really good about just adapting and saying, hey, we're showing you the channels from the new region you're in whenever I would travel when I had it. I don't use it anymore. And I don't know how seamless it is while you're driving between one region and another.
Yeah, I will say that I've watched YouTube TV in other states before, but I didn't have this like cross-state situation that he's experienced. So I don't know. Yeah,
it may not be that YouTube TV doesn't honor other regions. It may be that they just didn't have a deal with the Central Valley station to carry it there. Yeah. Especially because those big metro area stations are often owned by the networks, which makes it easier to deal with them. Sometimes when you get out farther away from metro areas, the stations are independently owned and they may or may not have struck a deal. All right. Thank you, Nicole Lee, for joining us. It's been too long. Thanks for being back.
Yeah, happy to be back.
If people want to find what you do, where should they go?
You can just go to twitter.com/Nicole.
Follow her there. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you again next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
You could love them more than life itself if you only accepted the view that life is a cold, dead enterprise that is just time you have to kill before you enter the good place.
If we have 5,000 people at this level, I will accept that as true.
See, this is a point-based system I can get behind. Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.